Well, folks, that's just the thing I've talked about in earlier episodes. It's a brave new world with its own possibilities, preferences, permutations, and combinations, hard pressed as many of us might be to understand any of it. But dating on its own is special. Well, you might not fall in love. No. You may not even find the one with whom you can banter long into the night, who is also wicked in bed. You may have that near perfect first date that almost turns into something more, or not quite. You might wrangle a wonderful or warm night or two every once in a while. But you'll also have cold days when you'll find it difficult to find any merit at all in your checkered dating life. If you're lucky, you might get to see the northern lights every once in a while. Mostly, it's like all you're doing is looking for a falling star to wish on, hoping against all hell that it doesn't crash and burn at your feet. It's not always romantic, it's never really ideal, but playing the field and the balancing act it requires has a special place in the pantheon of experiences. And I'm lucky to have found it when I did. In the end, I wish you all the best. All of you fellow travelers out there. I also wish you love. And I wish you get to love and have that love returned at least once in your lifetime, no matter how briefly. Go gently into that wide blue yonder, my friends, and don't forget to be kind or to lose yourself every once in a while. Someone recently asked me what I would do if I found a keeper. Marriage again? A relationship? Live in? I told him I would go crazy again. Feel free. Let him be free. Laugh. Travel with him. Have fun. And drink late. Wake up early. And sleep in. Be silly. And continue to hold my own end of the world up. That was the last episode from the online dating season 2 of the Truth About Nobody podcast that I do. Here's a recap. Well, I'm learning video editing, so do pardon a bit of the dissonance between pieces, but here's a recap of some of the moments from the season gone by. As I spoke to Manish, to Shivraj, to Diva, and also shared a lot of my experiences. Listen to the snippets and see if you want to listen to the rest of it. Go to Spotify, Anchor, Apple Podcasts, or Google Podcasts. The last slide tells you how to connect. Happy listening. I've been on various online dating apps for the past year and a half, minus the time I was laid up in hospital, and further subtracting the months I just about lost it with the kind of people I kept coming across these apps, and then just logged the hell out of them for weeks at a time. It's been a mixed bag, to put it mildly, but it's sure been a bag full of surprises too. In fact, it's the piñata that keeps on giving the more you flog it. And I've flogged the life out of it. To the extent that there are people I meet on some of these apps, like you would. I had friends' warnings ringing in my ears, telling me to be reasonable, non-judgy, patient. Give it all an honest chance, Preeti Singh, they said. So soon I also signed up for a paid membership on Bumble. I liked its sunny yellow interface way more than Tinder's. Besides the fact that it allowed women to be relatively in control of their matches. Not that it prevented a lot of the dissonance or riffraff from getting in, especially as long as Tinder was in the mix. In fact, there were days I worried that the rather shady Tinder app had taken over my phone and was doing strange things to it. But I couldn't bring myself to delete that fiery little icon from my ostensibly compromised phone. You see, I was hooked to this strange new world that I had discovered. Long, sleepless nights had suddenly become shorter, sleeping almost optional, and staying awake much easier as the secrets of online dating slowly unfurled. Every time I would decrease the age criteria, I would get inundated with matches. I cautiously started crawling away from the 40 somethings. The bigger the age difference, the more interesting people got. Men my age suddenly seemed too boring, inflexible, or oversensitive, often too pompous or cynical, and sometimes seriously lacking a sense of humor. Impossibly boring, I would call it sometimes. With a few rare exceptions, of course, almost all of whom turned out to be married, or lacking that certain je ne sais quoi, hence unmatched and quickly dispatched with. I will admit, though, that I found it hard to banish a couple of these married men from my life or from WhatsApp once I found out they were married. I'm human after all. Some of them were impossibly cute, witty, sexy, but then good sense would prevail. Soon I started going lower and lower, finally climbing the fence over to 30-year-olds, ever mindful of the fact that it was only, in any case, to each their own. It's become a mantra of sorts for me, for tolerance. Sometimes it's hard for me to keep track of people I'm exchanging numbers and life information with, especially as we are all weaving in and out of conversations that often pick up after one person is at a loose end or at a losing end with someone else. On the various apps or on Instagram, Telegram, WhatsApp. So I started following the same principle that I used while saving contact numbers of those in my business network. I added a couple of lines on something memorable or interesting or initially attractive about a particular person. Besides their age, height, that's important, what app I met them on, and a few extra details like mild foot fetish, looking for a hookup only, twice married, vaguely separated, into extreme sports, etc. etc. And sometimes I would save a picture each from the app, for visual cues are, of course, always the best.
We've still not given up. Yes, we've had at least one traumatic relationship, but we are still hoping to find the one we want to grow old with. No more getting down from both sides of the bed. Okay, that sounds better in Hindi, but you get the point.
I think that's a very valid point that you make. But I don't think I'm willing to give up my left side of the bed yet. But still, I think you're right about this, that it is also about giving a little bit of yourself up, and not just by saying a space in a cupboard or the side of the bed, but giving off yourself to people. So what are your thoughts on that?
We are at an age now where the space we are in mentally, emotionally, financially is a space that's hard earned. We've given a decade or thereabouts to get to this space. We've overcome traumas of failed relationships, career bumps, loss of close ones, and come out stronger. The space we inhabit, our homes, our mind space, the avocations and hobbies that we've inculcated, the ones that we love doing alone, this place is sacred. It can now be shared only with someone who we truly feel is worth it. The 20s, when we had we'll see how it goes and we'll make it work as long as we can make it work, we would back ourselves to make it work, are long gone. Now we know what we don't want. We are very sure of what we can't stand for, and there is no scope for compromise. The person has to be truly worth it. Otherwise, we are good. Actually, we are very good. We don't need anyone else.
I hadn't even heard of these dating apps till about 2.5 years ago, and I only joined about a year ago. But you've been doing this for a while. How has dating changed over the past few years, especially with the entrance of these apps that have made it so convenient? How has dating changed for you?
When I wasn't out, it was all very on the down low. No one knew. And when I was out, I think it became par for the course that most gay men don't have spaces. So dating apps are par for the course. But I have to tell you this, the transition's been very interesting. Because back then in the 90s, you did not have apps. You had chat applets. And so the language and the lingo is really fun because on those, you didn't have the opportunity to put up pictures, but you had handles. So you had your handle, and the first thing you'd get asked was ESL. So ASL is age, sex, and location, which is quite a misnomer considering you're on a man to man chat. Now it's become preference, position, and place. And I'm just like, can we graduate to that through other conversations? But very often, that's what it begins.
Hookups versus more thoughts.
Unfortunately, in the gay world, dating always begins with a hookup before it goes to the other thing. So I'm also as I get older and I'm now in my mid 40s, I sometimes want to turn it on its head. And so I want a conversation. I want to go out. I want to meet the person and get to know them. And more often than not, even after you swipe right, within the first 2 or 3 conversations, you know whether it's for you or not. And also, there are a lot of these good looking men who decide that they've been empowered because you've said hello to them. And after maybe 2 or 3 lines, they go silent. Has that happened with you where they suddenly just go silent for a very long time? And have you ever had that situation where you're having conversation with someone and of course, it's not the be all and end all of what you're doing and they get really anxious. They want an answer to that question. So there are these little question marks that keep popping up and this sudden urgency that they must hear from you. And then they go silent.
Oh, yes, my friend.